All right, guys, let's go ahead and start. So, what's up, Art? How you doing? All right, so here's what we've got. We've got our this is the Volition testnet. It's basically the platform that we've developed with, as Cryptogogue for the Volition card game, but it's going to be able to be used for other games, for basically digital assets that a game designer or developer can go ahead and put their game onto the platform that we have, and they can allow it players, consumers, or whatnot to be distributed the game through our platform. It's a blockchain platform, which means that all your players or customers will use the blockchain. They'll use the wallet, and they will be able to own their digital assets, unlike most other digital platforms where they don't technically own them. They're licensed to them. This is an actual ownership. So just like any other crypto, they'll be able to truly own their digital assets, which is really awesome. And there's some really cool things that you can do with a digital first platform, because the way we've designed this is, like I said, it's a digital first platform that then you print out or print on demand your assets as the player. So you can basically have your collection digitally, and then when you want to build a deck, you print out your deck and sleeve up your deck and play with it. You can do it for more than just card games. You can do it for minis potentially. You basically own a 3D or a digital asset that is the 3D model that you can then print out a miniature, or you can do it for stuff like RPGs where character sheets or items are actual assets that players own, and then they can transmit, transfer, sell, buy, trade, all those digital assets. And you, as the game designer, basically have this advantage where you don't have to deal with manufacturing, where you actually go get your game printed or manufactured, because the customer is able to do that in a very fun hobby sense. Like, it's kind of a creative hobby, papercraft, think Warhammer, things of that nature. You would be able to basically create your game. So it's a very hands-on thing. It's pretty fun. And then they'll be able to, you have no overhead in getting the game produced and printed and manufactured. You also don't have to worry about distributors, because it's all distributed via the blockchain and peer-to-peer pretty much. So you would have the ability to get it out to people without having to worry about going through traditional manufacturing distribution. In short, I kind of stumble in there, but that's kind of where we're at. What I'm more excited, and that's less what this is about and more about showing off what we've actually built. So that's going to be what we have right in front of us right now. This is our wallet. So basically the wallet can hold any kind of assets. And right now, we've just have an asset that is a pre-constructed deck, and an asset that, well, 6 assets you can see in the corner that are booster boxes. You can expand those, and you can see each booster box. Now, each one of these assets is a true, unique, one of digital asset that nobody else has and cannot be copied or duplicated in any way. So let's just open up this pre-con. Now, the pre-con that we've got here, again, we're very much in beta still. Set's not finalized. Obviously, we have temporary artwork and such. But again, this is just to show off the functionality of the wallet and the assets, and some of the potential behind the project, not only for our game that we're using to highlight the project, but anybody else's game as well. So I'm going to go ahead and show here. We've got all these different crafting features. One of them that you can see, the ones that are highlighted, is open box and open precon. So we can click on the precon and open precon, or we can just open precon, and then you choose your precon. We've got just one right now, so we'll choose it, and it loads it up into basically our script queue. And you can add additional commands. If we wanted to open a box as well, we could also open a box. And now we're going to open a precon and a box in a single transaction. But we're not going to do that right now. We'll just open up our beta starter. And because it's blockchain, every transaction needs your password that you set when you start your wallet, because every transaction basically is reaching out to the blockchain nodes, and they are processing that transaction and generating the cryptographic assets from the booster box or pack, or in this case, precon. So let's go ahead and open it up. We're going to submit the transaction, and you'll see it's going to submit it up into the cloud. It's basically sent it. So we have 0 of 1, and then they send it back. The node sends it back after it's verified, and you have 38 new assets. You can see our precon is now gone. We only have our booster boxes, and we have 38 new assets. So we can go ahead and click on our mailbox or inbox or receiving assets, and it's going to generate all those. And what we have here is the precon contents, which are all the cards for the precon. Okay. And these assets are, again, unique. They're 100% unique. They can't be copied. They're not just a line in a database that everybody says, okay, I have one of these, and it's that same line, and it's the same for everybody. These actually can have unique history, unique tracking. There are some cards that we have that you can craft together, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But the fact that it's on blockchain and they are unique assets, it provides some really cool stuff for game designers and for players. Like I said, you can track the history of a card, who's owned it, who got traded to, what events it was used in, what tournaments it won, what pack was it opened out of, who mined that booster pack and made that booster pack. Was it opened years ago or was it opened yesterday? You know, how used has this card been? How long has it been sitting in somebody's account? Maybe you could have an account level up based on the level of cards that you have that have usage. So after a card's been used 10 times, it starts providing something cool to that user by owning that card. And if that user has a leveled up card, not necessarily in game power, but just ownership, right? They could trade that card off to somebody else, and now that person would have this asset in their inventory or in their collection that could provide some cool benefit to them for owning it. And then again, just knowing the history on things is awesome. You can also, like I said, merge cards. We're looking at, because this is really an art project at its heart. You can take artwork and change the artwork. You can allow for independent artists to basically skin or art cards, and then those cards are unique. They only exist if an artist goes through and changes one of the arts on the cards and gives license to that art on that card. That is the only card that they put that on if they want, and they can make a one-of card, and then that card exists uniquely on its own. All right, so this is our inbox. When you receive new assets, you can actually tag those assets. So we could just leave it, and it would give it the new assets with the date tag, or we can call it beta precon. Our red faction is called beta, which is kind of confusing because we're in beta, and it is a beta precon or red precon, and you can say okay, and it'll auto tag it, and then when it drops it into our inventory, we get all of our cards in addition to our booster boxes that are here. And because we have some duplicates, they're commons, you got 3 beta cyclers or 2 acid rains, you can always collapse it up. That's the default normally, and you can see we have our 6 booster boxes still and our 3 super fast mortals. And you can actually click on an asset and zoom in. And over time, this will evolve, and you'll be able to see notes or different things that have been added to this card or its history and whatnot, like I've already discussed. But right now, you can just see the unique asset ID. This is the only one that exists. It'll never be copied. So that's where the uniqueness comes from. And this guy happens to be a rare. We have our barcode up in the corner, or our QR code up in the corner. If you scanned that, you'll get the code at the bottom. And basically, that's how you would trade a card. You'd scan it or send it to somebody, and you can verify decks as well. So you could actually, when somebody produces a deck, there would be a QR code generated with that deck, and the game organizer, the event organizer at FNM, they could, if they wanted to deck check, they could just verify and scan that deck list. So players don't have to write down a deck list; they just bring it, verify it against their deck, and see that every card in their deck is actually owned by that player. That way, you can have sanctioned events where owning the card is important. So let's go ahead and get a couple more cards here. Let's open up a booster box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I can click on this and open up all 6 booster boxes, or I can just open a box and choose one of the boxes to open. And we'll go ahead and open up this booster box. We type in our password. We're going to submit that transaction. Again, it sends it up to the nodes. The nodes verify that this is a correct transaction, that you actually owned that box, and that these assets are going to be provided back to you in the form of booster packs. And now we have 13. Our booster boxes right now, and this could change, but they're 12 packs per box. So why do we have 13 assets? Well, like many games, we want to provide packs, and we're giving a box topper. And so we get a cool box topper here, and you can put any kind of asset in there. So there's some pretty cool stuff you can do with that, and I'll get to that in a minute. And we're going to call these packs, and we're going to say, okay, let's open up another box, see if we get something else cool. So it's updated. We've got the new cards in our inventory now. You can see our Gamma Maker booster box and some of our 12 packs. Let's open up one more booster box here, because I like the box toppers. Let's see if we can get a cool box topper. Again, these box toppers can be totally unique. They can be super limited in their availability or print run, if you want to call it a print run. You can put any kind of asset in there. So again, this isn't just for card games. If you're doing an RPG game, or if you're doing like minis, you can have some really unique things in there. Like the insert is not a mini, but it's like a scenery object. Or if it's an RPG, it could be extra gold, not just like an item. So like they open up they open up a treasure chest, and in there is all these items, and then like a separate that maybe even have like spells in them, like a book with spells in the book. But then you also have money that could be in there, or additional transaction money for the network. Because when you're doing a blockchain, you can have transactions on the blockchain for that are just essentially monetary. Or in-game currency to bind more stuff with. So you can do all kinds of stuff by adding that into a booster box or into a booster pack even. So we'll go ahead and pull these assets. Again, more packs, and we got a special double land, or a co-sponsored statue, if you will. And again, these are unique from the normal ones that are in the booster packs for our set. Again, you can change it for our game. You can change it based on your game, but these are basically overlapping kind of extended art. We can see the artwork comes outside the box. It's kind of hard to see on this guy because he's sideways, but we're going to add this to our packs. And now we should have our 24 packs. And actually, it'll end up having the box toppers in there as well. So 24 packs. So let's go ahead and open them all 24 packs. We don't want to open them one at a time. I'm going to open a pack or open all 25. You can see, sorry about that. We are rich, and the weight of this transaction is 25 because there's 24 packs plus the transaction itself. And we'll go ahead and type in our password. And we've got our 216 assets now. So let's clear our filters. And these are all the cards that we opened in our 24 packs. So 2 boxes worth of cards we just opened up. These are all unique assets. Only I own these. Now, again, somebody else may own an enforcement officer, but it's not this enforcement officer. This is my enforcement officer, and it's unique to me. And like I said, if we were to change the artwork or be able to do some crafting to it, which I'll show you in a minute, the crafting is really cool. It's a very exciting aspect of the game. Like, you can't do that with traditional Magic or Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh cards. You get 2 cards in a booster pack. There's no merging them together or, taking 3 of them and making 3 commons into a new uncommon or anything like that. You can't do that with physical cards. And it would be logistically impossible for a company to handle people sending in that stuff to get new stuff back. So you could actually do a lot of cool crafting stuff. And it could affect your game, or it could just affect the way your game is distributed. Oh, nice. We got an Omega host. I'll show you that. That's a perfect host to get to show you some of the crafting. So we have, right now we're calling them hosts, but they're basically, I got another one. That's a special art one. He comes outside the frame, which is kind of cool. So anyway, our booster packs, I can show you the first one. They come with, currently we're doing 5 commons, 2 uncommons, a rare, and then we have an insert slot, which comes with basically, these are called cores. They're essential to the gameplay. So they're kind of like basic lands in a sense. So we put 1 in every pack, and it could be replaced by another rare or a special alt art, or I think we have a color. Oh, you could get a booster pack inside your booster pack. So if you opened up this pack, there's potential that instead of a Bonnie Cottontail's core, you could actually get a booster pack inside your pack, which is awesome. You can't do that in real life. And you could also, heck, you could put a whole booster box in there. So you get a lucky pack, you get the entire booster box inside there. Or you could put a special pack that has the entire set for that set, or kind of like Magic did God packs at one point, or super special inserts of old cards. You could do stuff like that where unique, interesting assets are injected into your packs in a designated slot. It makes it real fun opening packs because you can get some really cool stuff. But generally, it's just one of our cores here. And so, yeah, we have 9 cards per pack, conveniently enough, because 9 cards print on a sheet, on a 6x9 sheet of paper. So that's just kind of what we're doing there. That may change in the future. But again, you can set it however you'd like. Oh, I got to accept these. You can set it however you'd like if you're developing your own game on the platform. You can make 1 asset packs, 1 asset boxes, 100 asset boxes, packs, doesn't matter. It's all up to you. All right, so we're not going to label any of these assets. It's just a bunch of cards. So we're just going to go ahead and accept them into our inventory. And now they're in our inventory, and we can actually craft them, or if for the ones that are craftable, we can send them to people. So I can click on this guy, and I could actually send it to somebody. I would put in somebody's address there, not their email address, but their wallet address, their wallet name, and I could send it to them. They would now own that asset, and I can't get it back. It's a final transaction. And there are features that we can work on in the future that are like there would be a middleman provided via the blockchain that would basically say, oh, you're going to trade these 5 things, and they would say, I'm going to trade these 2 things, and you could verify those, and it would send that transaction that we don't have to worry about, like because these are real assets, like sending it through the mail. So you could mail somebody a card, and if they don't mail it back to you, that could be a problem. So being digital, there's a lot of stuff you can do that helps secure that stuff and give more trust to the system. So we have all that available as the game and project moves forward. Okay, so we have tons of cool cards here. Some more double assets. Statues. They're called statues in our game. And you can see we've got 3 and 4 copies. Some are only 1 copy. All right, so let's get into crafting. I have all these different craft abilities. We have more boxes we could open. We could make an uncommon by merging 5 of the same name, non-core, non-gemmed commons, because we have things called cores. I already explained those. And then non-gemmed commons, because if you have a host that has gems in it, you may not want to merge those together. So we're not letting them merge them together because they would lose that special unique card that they created. You can also make a rare by merging 5 of the same uncommons, or make a new core by merging 3 of the same core. And again, you can define these as a game developer and publisher on the platform. You can create any crafting methods your mind could come up with. Anything you can imagine could be programmed into it for crafting different assets. Again, it doesn't have to be cards. You could have a board game where people are able to craft their board and then print it out and play the board game on this unique board that they were able to build out of different assets that they've acquired via basically the blockchain or your distributed packs or however it is you choose to distribute your game on the platform. You can also, I've allowed for people to make a new booster pack. So you can actually merge a gem card, which I could show you one of those, an empty host that doesn't have a gem in it, a core card, and then any 3 rares. And you can get a brand new booster pack with the chance of getting a better rare or, any special insert cards, stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. And then the one that's really cool is attach a gem to a host. The gems are used and permanently destroyed. So if you think about this in game terms, like card game terms, usually there's like a creature or a unit, and you can put a card onto that unit to make it better. But it's only during the game that you're doing that. Well, we allow you to do it with certain cards outside the game during deck building or during in your collection. So if you decide you want to kind of mix certain cards together to create a new card, you can. So let me show you. We're going to go ahead and attach a gem to a host. So let me show you the different hosts that we have. Right now for our game, we have one host of each color. And we got a bunch of the not Delta hosts, the Omega hosts. These guys are basically not color specific. They're not dedicated to any specific faction. We have the purple guy, the red guy, green guy, and then we have a colorless guy. So it looks like we're actually missing blue. That's okay, because we actually want to use one of these. And you can see here the difference between this guy kind of pops out the frame a little. He's one of the special ones, whereas the one below it is just a regular uncommon. So let's go ahead and craft onto our Omega host. If you look on the side here, even on our Delta host, it's got this little bubble here next to the line type. Well, he has 2 little bubbles. That means he can actually hold 2 gems. And again, these names will probably change. I don't think we're going to call these hosts in the grand scheme of things in the game. And we're probably not going to call them gems. We'll probably call them augmentations or something like that. But this guy, we can go ahead and select it. So we're going to say we want to select our Omega host, and then we can attach a gem to the host. And here's our different gems. Gems are kind of like, if you play Magic, they're kind of like enchant creatures. But normally in the game, if you have a holy strength that gives +1/+2 for 1 mana, it only happens in the game. And then outside the game, if you don't use it in your deck, it's kind of a bad card. You're not going to use it a lot, and it's got its detriments in game. But imagine if you could take unholy strength or holy strength or an awesome equipment, lightning greaves or a sword, and attach them permanently to a creature. Now, not any gear and not any creature, but specific ones. And you can come up with some really unique stuff. So here we've got all these different gems, which are enchant creatures, essentially. This gives one of my mortals +1/+1 and gives them momentum. This one gives a mortal +2/+2, and it says if the mortal would be destroyed, he turns face down as a statue, which is like a resource. This one gives them +1/+0. Gives them +1/+0, and says when he hits the player, or in this case the cores, you get to inflict 1 or 2 damage to a depleted mortal. So we could add any of these to this mortal or this creature that we have, this unit. So we're going to go ahead and select. Let's go ahead and select the blue one. So the Epsilon gem. And now we have our Omega host and our Omega host and our Epsilon gem. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and submit this transaction where we're taking our Epsilon gem and inserting it onto the Omega host. And this is going to actually change the card. It's going to change the Omega host, and it destroys the gem. Now you can choose, if you're a game developer, to not destroy the gem or destroy both and create a brand new asset that's totally new. You can do a lot of really cool stuff, but we chose to it's going to basically take the gem and permanently affix it to, I said permanently, it's not actually permanently, but affix it to our host. So now you've got the Omega host. And if you noticed, his cost changed, his power and toughness or strength and life changed. And now his little gem slot is filled, and he has the ability of hit, inflict 2 damage to a depleted mortal. Pretty cool. But remember, this guy has 2 gem slots. So we can actually attach another gem. So let's do this. We're going to assign this guy to host. We'll make him a host so we can easily find him. And actually, it's going to be able to pull it up here when we do attach gem to host anyway. So we can go here. And again, there he is again. If you look, he's different from the Omega host below him. The Omega host below him is a 1 cost of any color, a 1/1, whereas this Omega host is a 2 blue and 2 of any color, 2/1 with an ability. Okay, so we're going to select him again. And we're going to imprint or affix another gem. And we can do any of these gems that we want. We have a colorless gem here. That's a purple gem. Let's do this one because this has got a cool ability. So it's +0/+2. It costs 2 yellow and 2 colorless. Essentially colorless. We call it Omega, 2 Gamma and 2 Omega to attach or to play. But that's going to basically add to our Gamma host or our Omega host, excuse me, that cost -1 of the Omegas. So it's going to be 1 cheaper, but it's going to add it to the cost. And it's going to give that guy +0/+2. And it's also going to make it so that when he hits the player, you can search your deck for essentially a resource card. It's called a statue, and put it into play. So we're going to do that. And now this guy is unique. Again, to me, I created him in my collection, in my inventory. I chose to make this card. And as a game designer, you get full control of saying, these are the cards we want to do this with, or the assets we want to do this with, and all the restrictions that come along that you may want to have so that players don't break your game, you can do. And now you can see he's an Omega host. He costs 2 blue, 2 yellow, which is 2 epsilon, 2 gamma, and 2 omega. And now he's a 2/3, and he has 2 triggers that say when he hits a player or a host, he gets to inflict 2 damage to a depleted mortal and search your deck for a standard statue and put it into the battle zone. So now this guy is totally unique and something that we created, which is really cool because what it does is it gives your players the ability to be even more creative with the game. And I think that's really what a big part of like collectible card games and just basically card games in general that allow deck building are about creativity and about personalization of the deck and kind of playing a deck that represents you and what you like to do or how you like to play your games. And that's what I think makes collectible card games, and again, just deck building games really in general, so attractive to people. Even just like deck builder board games like Dominion or Ascension, like you're able to kind of in that moment build up a unique deck that is unique to you, and that's really cool and really fun. It's also why people love RPGs. They like to build up something that they created. So now we can look at our hosts, and there he is, and he's in our collection. And if I clear this out, you can see him amongst all my cards. If we go down to, got to scroll down. We got a lot of cards now, but now you've got your regular Omega host and your Omega host that we've made unique. And he now says crafted at the bottom as well, versus saying uncommon, which is what the original one says. So that's really cool. You can also clear out the gems. You can reset a host and it'll reset it to all of its default attributes. The thing is because of the way we've set it up, if we do that, those gems that we use to insert into him are lost forever. They're gone. They're actually gone forever as soon as you imprint it into this guy. I'm curious if anybody has any questions. I've gone over a lot already, and I kind of wanted to talk about the game a little bit. I kind of wanted to show some of the other crafting, but be sure to just on the original post, basically on my personal page where the stream is, post in the comments, ask any questions, and I will answer them here live. If you have any comments, let me know, and we can address those and talk about that as well. So again, you can make a new, let's make a booster pack, right? We want to make a new booster pack. So this shows all of the things that are required to make a new booster pack. We need a core. We can choose any of our cores. If we have a bunch of duplicates, and it looks like we do, we'll just choose one of these. We're going to choose Joe Spitfire's core. We don't want that anymore. We don't need it. We can choose a gem. We've got plenty of, looks like plenty of purple gems. Let's get rid of one of those. We don't care about that. We can choose a host. We've got tons of Omega hosts, even though he's kind of I wouldn't say he's the best one because these other hosts have abilities built into them. So it's actually pretty cool, but they can only be gemmed with one asset. So but who knows, in the future, maybe you'll be able to gem other colored hosts with other assets and multiple assets, not just one. So that'd be pretty cool. All right, we'll get rid of an Omega host though. And then we can do rares, and you can look and see what rares do I have multiple copies of, what rares do I not want anymore. We didn't open up a lot, but there's 2. Get rid of one of these guys. We'll get rid of, let's just snag one up here. And I really like that guy. We'll get rid of the beta invention. All right, so now you can see all the assets that we're going to submit and convert into a booster pack. Submit the transaction, and that transaction is going to come back as a new booster pack. So those assets are gone, they've been destroyed, and we get a new booster pack. If you've already got set tags, you can actually just click on here. I forgot about that. And you can just click packs and say, okay, I'm going to add this to my packs. And now it's going to add it to our inventory. It's going to be in here. Don't want to scroll through everything, so we can just say, show me my pack. Here's my pack. I forgot these guys are attached to packs. We can undo them. Say, you know what, we don't want them part of packs anymore. Get out of here. And then we can click our pack. Open our pack, see if we get anything cool in here. Maybe we'll get another booster pack, or maybe we'll get a booster box. That would be crazy. It's super rare. I've got it set right now to a very difficult distribution method for a box inside of your pack, but it is possible. So there's our new pack. Another core, got our rare, 2 uncommons and 3 commons. We didn't get any hosts or gems though, but that's okay. All right, so we'll add those into our collection. It shows empty because we're still filtered on packs, but we don't have any left, so we'll clear that. And again, you can do this crafting as many times as you want. Just submit a transaction and it does it, and you're good to go. And like I said, as a game developer, you can really get creative with these crafting methods, which is very cool. Okay, so again, if anybody has any questions, like I said, please post. I'm trying to see if anybody, oh man, somebody commented on one of the other posts that the stream is not viewable on that post. Let's see, I got to share this to them. So what are you guys liking that you see so far? What's the most interesting thing about what I've shown? Is there anything you want me to go over again or explain in more detail? I can explain in more detail how the things work or the possibility of what could be done with it. Give me some ideas. If you guys are like, hey, could you do this? Is this possible? It's really pretty limitless in some of those crafting methods and in how stuff is generated. The way that our cards are generated, we design. So these are all in SVGs. So they're all SVG templates, obviously with the rastered image graphics for the card art itself. But because they're all SVG, you can use SVG stylings to do all your borders and your colors and make it all dynamic so that, you basically have your data for your card, and then all of that will be compiled together to generate the asset on the fly, essentially. And that's how you're able to do stuff like crafting, where you get the multiple colors. And if you noticed on that character, let's find him again. He's multiple colors. He actually has a gradient from blue to yellow, because in our crafting methods, it's able to take the different gems, colors, costs, and basically augment it all together. And when it generates it, basically the schema that is all of our card definitions and all of our template and asset definitions is able to generate that color combination and icons and whatnot. Is it worth getting into schema and scripting? We could. I wasn't really set up to show any of the spreadsheet stuff. We actually use Excel to do the scripting and the card asset data and the templates. All of it's done through Excel. It's actually pretty amazing. I don't know if I can easily show that here. I haven't set it up. We could actually do another stream that gets more into the technical side. I would rather do that. I think this one right now, I kind of want to show a little bit of the game and how the gameplay works, just from a game standpoint. I guess, let me think here. Oh no, I think that guy replied. Hi, buddy. Sorry, guys. Okay, so yeah, like I said, it's all done through Excel, and there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do with the scripting and how templates are built. Like I said, you don't have to build cards. You can build a board game board. You can build put together character sheets that are generated using different assets for RPGs. Just a lot of really cool stuff. And again, it's all your imagination is the limit. Like there's a lot of crazy stuff, and we're just on the tip right now. This is the most basic fundamental stuff you're going to be able to do. Again, as a game developer and as a player of our game, again, in the future, as it moves forward, we're going to have a lot more really cool features from a collection, game, asset, merging and crafting and transactions and management of your inventory and your collection and history tracking. And like I said, all the tournament side of things, there's a ton of possibilities here. It's just, we got to build it, but this is where we're at right now. And we're very bleeding edge when it comes to this. There's nobody else out there doing digital ownership designed for physical play, and also being designed to handle all kinds of assets and game designs, game distribution models, so long as they're digital, obviously, and the crafting side of things. Again, you have a game you want to publish, you don't know how to publish it, or you don't know that publishing it physically is viable, or it's not something you want to do, or your game wants to do something with crafting and true ownership, then you really should look at this platform. We're doing a lot of really cool things, and it's all going to be open sourced up so that people can look at it and help build or give suggestions and see how things work. We're being very transparent. It is blockchain, so there's going to be some cool stuff coming up. Also, mining will be a thing. So at some point we'll do another one of these live streams where you can talk, or you can look at, and we'll talk about the tech side. We'll talk maybe more about the schema and how assets are built. We'll talk more about how the blockchain actually is functioning to handle this stuff, and the mining side of things, so that people can figure out, well, what does it take to mine? Is it like Bitcoin and you need tons of electricity and computing power? And I'll tell you right now, that's not the way ours is set up. And we can even have Patrick on, and he has been the lead in building the entire backend blockchain and getting this all set up. So he will definitely be somebody that you guys would want to talk to if the tech side and the blockchain side and the programming interests you. And we can set another one of those up. And we'll do another one in the future. But again, I see we've got a decent number of viewers starting to build up here. Make sure you share this. You can always come back and watch it again later. It's going to be on my Facebook page. I'm going to try to get it uploaded to a YouTube, so we have a permanent place there for it as well. Again, if anybody has any questions, post them in the original stream on my personal page, and I will see them here in the stream, and I can answer your questions. I want to make another host because this is fun. I think this is really cool. So we're going to take another Omega host. Actually, let's take this guy. So this guy's a 2-1 for 1 beta and 1 omega, and he's fast, which basically means he can come out and attack as soon as he's able to get played. And we're going to attach a gem to it. Let's attach a theta gem, which will give him +2/+1. And when he hits an opponent, they discard a card. So it's going to be a +2/+1 fast, discard a card when he hits, but his cost is going to increase. It's going to increase by 2 purple, which is theta, and 1 omega. And we're going to run the script. Submits it to the cloud. Comes back as a new asset in our inbox. And there it is. Beta host, fast. When he hits, each opponent discards a card, and now he's a 4/2. But instead of costing just 2, 1 red and 1 of any color, he now costs 5 total, which is appropriately cost, I think, for a guy that can come out immediately. And if he hits the opponent, they discard a card. Oh, let's actually add it like this. Host. And now we've got our 2 hosts that we've created that are unique to our inventory. And again, imagine if you were in the way you designed your game, or in the future of this game, as more hosts or more gems come out, you start getting some really crazy combinations of things. And again, it's all on the designer to make sure that these things are balanced, and you have all the tools at your disposal from a programming sense and a scripting sense to make sure that people can only craft the way you want to craft, or when crafting happens, it does certain things, limitations and whatnot. It's all up to you. And so you can make sure your game stays playable and doesn't get busted. So we're really excited about this. We think this is going to be real fun. Again, there's no physical game that you can do this with, where you can create these unique assets and print them out and put them into your deck. Okay, so there's that. Maybe I'll come back and show some more from people that joined us late when it comes to the wallet. But there's our wallet. Oh, printing. Man, I almost missed all that. So a couple things you can do here. You can also download these assets as JPEGs or PNGs. It'll download the assets. Click download here. It saves them as a zip file. And now those assets are individual files. So you can actually take your assets and put them onto Tabletop Simulator or any other digital platform that allows you to import assets. You'll have all the individual files. Right now we're looking at WebView as well. You can zoom in. I didn't play with any of this stuff actually, so we'll play with it a little bit. I was excited to show the crafting because that's the exciting part to me. Like I said, you can choose an asset or multiple assets and send those. It'll show you what assets are going to be sent. You can send them to a recipient, send them to a friend. You can change your view so that you can print. Go to US letter 8.5 by 11, and it'll put it in a 9 or a 3x3 9 card printable sheet that you can then just print and send it off to your printer. And then you cut them up and sleeve it up. It's pretty quick and easy, actually. You can change that to legal. Here, let's get some more cards in here, actually. Let's do the beta precon. There we go. There's our beta precon. So that's all the cards in our precon. We actually would also have to print out some statues or resources for our game. Resources for our game are essentially unlimited. So we didn't want to make unique assets for unlimited assets, or get assets that everybody should have access to. So there will be a way to add, and we're working on this, that they'll be added in as infinite assets that you can then also have as part of your inventory that doesn't take up, an infinite number of slots of inventory space or whatever. And you can just add it when you print. So when you go to print your deck, it'll have all of the unlimited assets, or the number you choose. These slots would be filled with our resources, essentially. So different methods or different formats to print in. Then, like I said, you just hit print, and it prints out a sheet of cards. And in the future, we would like to try to tie into some print-on-demand not industrial, that's not really the right word, but the mom and pop shops, or even like a drive-through cards or a game crafter, where you could take your deck and just send it over to them, and it would print out all of your deck assets, and they would mail you card stock, nice high quality versions. And that would even allow us to have special card inserts that have foil layers essentially on them. And then when they print it, they could print foils for you if you happen to have the foil version of the asset, or full bleed or whatever. So that's also in the path. At some point, we want to be able to have these go straight over to print on demand. That way, players that want higher quality cards that aren't just paper can do that. Or if they don't have a printer, they'd be able to send it over and get some physical cards printed up. Okay, so let's check out the actual cards once you've printed them out. So I've got my deck over here, and I've got my cores. And actually, let's pop this up. Oops, sorry. So this is a beta core. So we're going to talk about Volition now, and not the Cryptogogue wallet that we're using for Volition. So this part's going to be about gameplay and how Volition actually plays out. So I don't know how many of you out there have been waiting to see how Volition actually plays, but I'm going to walk through basically the card types, kind of the goal of the game, how you win, and some of the stuff that's going on. And I'll probably compare it a lot to Magic the Gathering, since that's the most widely known card game, or probably what a lot of players have already had experience with. So I may make some references there, but I'll try to keep it new card game player friendly as well. All right, so we have what are called cores. So in our game, you are an AI that it just is all powerful almost, and you have evolved, and there have been other AIs that have evolved, and you're trying to basically gain control of Earth, or the planet in our universe, the place in our universe. Maybe it's the entire universe. We're not fully fleshed out yet, but we have some awesome ideas on where to go with our lore. And so that's kind of what you're doing, is you're an AI trying to influence the inhabitants of the planet or universe to do your bidding and stop the other AI that are trying to do the same thing. And that's your opponents, the other AI. And the way that you communicate or are connected to the real world versus just this AI presence that you have is through things called cores. So in our game, as a game mechanic, you have 3 cores. You use 1 core at a time. Your opponent is trying to destroy your core. Once they've destroyed your core, you go to your backup core, and then you have your final backup core. And basically, you just reveal the next core. It has abilities that allow you to interact with the game, and again, try to stop them from defeating you, and you yourself defeat them. That way, you are the only AI in existence. The cores do have protection. They have what's called shields. And so if you read our core here, it's called beta core. We do have 2 other cores here, and they do very similar things, because again, this is ironically core to the gameplay, and it is pretty much the rules of the game. Unlike many other games, our game's rules are very heavily on the card. That way, you have a unique game experience as the game evolves over time. In a lot of other games, you have, like in Magic, for example, you always start with 20 life. You always start with X number of cards in your hand. Your deck's always a certain number of cards. It's always 4 of each card or whatever. If they ever wanted to change those rules, you got to change an entire format or make new rules for the game. Whereas using this kind of stuff, basically, are rules on a card, you're able to change those rules and have asymmetrical gameplay, which is very unique and fun as well. There's some other games like The Spoils has done that. A game called Imagination has done that. Netrunner has kind of done that as well. And so this is what this core does. It basically, when the core enters, you're able to search your deck for a standard beta statue, put it into the battle zone, and gain 3 shields. So at the start of the game, you're basically going to do that. You're going to reveal the first core you're choosing to use, search your deck for a beta core asset, and it comes into play. Okay, so you start with that in play, which is also awesome, because one of the big detriments of many resource-based card games is that if you don't draw the right assets in your opening hand, you can't really play. So this helps reduce some of the stress on, am I going to get what I need to play the game? Also, you're going to gain 3 shields. So, first we're going to draw our hand, actually. So you search, you shuffle, you draw your hand for a 5, and then you're going to gain 3 shields. 1, 2, 3. Okay. These shields are what protect your core. So your opponent will also have shields. Some of these cores, if you notice, have a different enter. This guy, for example, says search your deck for a standard beta statue and put it into the battle zone. And then you draw a card, but you only gain 2 shields. But you do get to start with 6 cards in your opening hand instead of 5. Okay. So that's a pretty cool thing. And these cores can be totally unique. And again, if you're talking about crafting, there could be ways potentially to craft cores. If you, as a game designer, wanted to allow people to craft new cores, stuff like that, add abilities, they create their own unique rule set for their game. But again, you want to keep in mind game balance, and don't give too much freedom, because they end up with some pretty broken stuff. But we currently have this core, and the rules of the game in the beginning are: you draw your hand, you got your core, you got your asset, you got your shields. Once a shield is destroyed or hit, it goes to your hand, essentially. So if a player hits you with a creature, or in our case, they're called mortals, the shield goes to your hand. Once all your shields are gone and your core gets hit, it's destroyed, and you flip to the next core and you do its enter. All right, guys. So we have our opening hand, we have our shields, we have our beta clout generator. Clout is the icon. So our statues that corporations provide to influence the mortals of the realm. Corporations are, or industries, it's kind of vague right now, but essentially they're what you're using as AI to influence the mortals to do your bidding. So they'll basically listen to what these corporate overlords have to say. And the more statues you have, the more power essentially you have to deploy out bigger and better mortals and items, and cause bigger events to happen, things of that nature. So I'm going to show you some of the other card types. This is what's in my hand. So in this hand in particular, we have 2 mortal cards. Okay. And I'll move this up here so I can actually show the cards to you guys. So we have 2 mortal cards. This mortal happens to be a Gabo hacker. Right now, again, all the names and stuff are temporary. He's a 1/3. That's his damage that he deals is the 1. The damage that he can take is the 3. He costs 2 beta, requires, he doesn't cost, there's no actual cost in the game. He requires beta assets, 2 of them, before you can play him. So you have to be that devoted to the beta industry or corporation before this guy will work for you. And then he has an ability that says you turn him sideways and each opponent has to deplete one of their guys, which is turn it sideways as well. Okay, so that's what this guy does. They're basically the minions that you use to attack at your opponent by turning them sideways as well. And if they go unblocked, regardless of how big they are, this guy could be a 10-10 and he will still only hit 1 shield and break 1 shield. But for combat purposes, if he's a 10-10, he would obviously be able to beat out other mortals and eventually get through the shields easier. So power and life work slightly different in this game than other games in that it's the higher the better for battle, but it doesn't matter how big you get when it comes to shields. Now, there are certain abilities that allow for when a mortal hits, it'll destroy 2 shields. Some mortals, like this guy, they have an ability called, so this guy is a 1/1. He costs 1 beta and 1 of omega, which is any other color, or beta as well. He has fast, which means he can attack and use abilities as soon as he comes into play. He has something called critical, or she has something called critical. And critical causes shields to be destroyed instead of absorbed. So if this guy was to hit an opponent, instead of absorbing this shield, which would be going to their hand, which is kind of nice when you're getting beat up on, you also are getting some cards to try to fight back. But this particular mortal, she will destroy the shield outright. It will not go to the opponent's hand if you hit them with this. It'll go straight to the discard pile. So there's cool abilities like that. So we have mortals, we have statues, we have cores, and we also have these 3 other card types. One is called an event. An event is a one-shot deal. It's basically like a spell, or it's like an action card or something of that nature that you basically play it, it happens, and it goes to your, in our case, the trash pile. So if we were to play this, it would happen. Each player, you'd look at the top of each player's deck and top 4 cards of their deck and put them back in any order. So you kind of manipulate their deck, and then this goes away. Okay. The next card would be a trap, which is very similar, except you actually set out traps beforehand, and they will be able to flip up on your opponent's turn to stop them from doing stuff. This is the only way to interact with your opponent on their turn is to use a trap card. When you play them face down, it's kind of a bluffing mechanic. You could play any card face down as a trap, but the only way you can actually use the trap is by satisfying its clout requirement. And in this trap's case, it's kind of pricey. It requires 3 beta and 3 of any other color. But this one says the next time you would lose a shield this turn, draw 3 cards. So if they attack you, you can flip up this trap. And if you lose a shield, you get to also draw 3 cards. So it's pretty good. So we have traps and events. Those are kind of like your one-shots. We have mortals, which is how they're how the shields are usually being dealt with. And then you have items. And there's 2 kinds of items. One is items that attach to guys. We already saw those. Those are gems. You can actually equip them to your guys or attach them, and they make them better in the game. And then, like I showed you, you can actually merge them permanently onto cards in your collection. And then there are just regular items, which are kind of like mortals, but they can't attack. They're things that sit in play and provide a continuous effect or give you the ability to use them by turning them sideways to do something. So this, as an example, when it enters the battle zone, one of your mortals gains fast, so they can attack immediately. And then at the end of combat, if any of your fast mortals hit this combat, which means hit the opponent's core or shields, then you can draw a card. So that's pretty cool if you have a lot of guys with fast. So those are the cards we have. If we had cards in our hand that we did not like, since this is our first turn, you would take a mulligan. And the mulligan in this game is to take any number of cards in your hand, put them on the bottom of your deck, and draw that many cards. We like our hand here, so we're not going to do that. But we essentially have our 5 cards in our opening hand. Now, how do you do stuff in this game if you're not using these to pay for things? Because remember I said you don't actually pay for stuff with your resources. You have 3 actions in a turn, and we call them decrees. You have 3 decrees per turn on your turn, 3 decrees that you can use to decree something happening. If we go back to our core, you'll see this little starburst icon, kind of a starburst. It's not focusing, but you have an icon there. Actually, I can do this. So that icon is a decree. And again, this stuff may change when we go to the final version of the game, but the decree is basically going to allow you to do an ability that requires a decree. And if you notice on our core, like I said, it provides you the ability to do everything. You pay a decree, one of your 3 decrees, and you can draw a card, deploy a card, or begin combat. Now, when it says deploy a card, that means you could deploy a mortal, or you could deploy another one of these statues, or you can deploy a face down card that is a trap card. You could do any of those things when it says deploy a card. Another cool thing is, if you notice, some of our guys required the omega, which is any color. Well, you can also get a omega basically by playing a face down statue. So you could play another statue and just play it face down. Okay. When you play a statue face down, it provides what's called alpha, which isn't really used for anything other than omega, but there will be cards in the future that require specifically alpha, specifically face down cards to be able to play or to gain bonuses. But generally they're used to satisfy the omega cost, like the 3 in this situation, the 3-0, or in this situation, the 1 omega icon. Okay, so when you deploy a card, you can do any of those things. You can also, like I said, draw a card or begin combat. Now, these guys in particular have an ability this core has an ability to deplete this to begin combat. So not only do I get my 3 actions, but I can actually deplete my core to get an extra ability. And there are some, I don't know if I have any right off the top. I could probably show you back on the wallet. There are some that say other abilities than begin combat. There may be one that says deploy a face down statue. And because that color likes to ramp up extra statues to play bigger things. So that's an ability that is on the core itself. Some of these other cores have even a third ability. So this guy, for example, if you pay a decree, you can draw a card, deploy a card, or begin combat. Or you can deplete this and you can deplete this to begin a combat as well. What that means is you can actually have multiple combats. So you could pay a decree to attack with one guy and then see how that works, and then pay another decree or just deplete this guy to attack again and begin another combat. This guy also has a last ability, which is pretty cool. It says pay a decree, deplete this core, destroy one of your statues, draw 2 cards. So one of the bad things about resource-based games is late in the game, if you have too many resources out, right? You got a bunch of resources out. Here we go. I got some cut out ones over here. You have a bunch of resources out. Oh no, too many. And it's late in the game and you don't need all these resources. You can use a core like this and say, okay, I'm going to pay this, destroy one of these statues and draw 2 cards. So your statues end up becoming card advantage, which is pretty cool. It helps keep the game flowing. So I know we got a lot. If anybody has any questions, just throw it in the original stream comments and I will see it and I can answer your questions. All right, guys. So now you kind of understand pretty much the core basics of the game. One of the things about this game that's very different from a lot of other games, you don't draw a card every turn. So if we're going to start our turn, we like our opening hand. We start with our beta clout generator, our standard statue starts in play. It's providing inspiration to all of our mortals and gives us the ability to help make events happen. So we're ready to go. We have 3 decrees. So the first thing I want to do, if you noticed, none of our cards cost only 1 beta. They all cost at least 2 or a beta and an omega, and we only have 1 beta. So I can take, let's actually do this. Let's first draw a card because we want to see if we've got more options. So I can use one of my decrees to draw a card. I'll do that. I drew this, a beta gem. That's one of the gems that we attached to a host earlier on in our example crafting, but this is still a card that we can play in the game. If we want to put it in our deck, we can. It doesn't have to be just crafted. And so this gem costs 2 beta and 2 omega. Now we don't really need that right now. We'd rather have some more mortals. So we're going to take our hand. We're going to use another one of our 2 remaining decrees, and we're going to play a face down asset here, or excuse me, face down statue. Yeah, Ludo, destroying the face down statues or destroying statues in general to gain card advantage, we feel like is a great design benefit to the game because, like I said, late in the game when you're running out of things to do potentially, you can gain advantage through getting rid of stuff that you built up earlier on. So that's a really cool aspect, and we're excited about that. So now we have 1 beta clout and 1 basically generic clout that's showing, and we have 1 more decree left. So we're going to actually use this guy. He costs 1 beta and 1 omega, which is what we have. And we can deploy this guy using, again, this deploy ability, deploy a card. And we have no more decrees. So our turn could be over, or would normally be over if we don't have any other abilities. This guy has a deplete ability, or this core has a deplete ability that says begin combat. And this guy, girl in this situation, has fast and critical. So we could deplete our core and begin combat, which means we can now attack with this mortal. This mortal has fast. Normally you wouldn't be able to attack with a mortal that you just played because they don't have fast, but this one does. So I can turn it sideways, deplete it, and attack my opponent. Because this is turn 1, they likely don't have anything out unless they went before we did, but we went first, so we would hit them for 1 and they would lose one of their shields and it would get absorbed into their hand. Oh, but wait, this one has the ability of critical, which causes shields to be destroyed when they hit. So if this actually hit, it would just destroy the shield. So one of the cool things about shields naturally being absorbed into your hand, it's kind of like Pokemon, but backwards. In Pokemon, there's a situation where as you are winning, you're gaining prizes, which means you're likely going to win even more. So there's this kind of snowball effect. We wanted to prevent that. So we made it so that the snowball was for your opponent. So as you're beating them up, they gain an advantage of getting more cards. Most of the cores only actually give you 2 shields. So each color or trade faction gives you at least 1 core that provides 3 shields, and then the rest are all 2 right now. And there's some other really cool cores, and you'll just have to explore that if you join our beta test and see what other cool core abilities there are. But the fact that you get to start with 3 of these and choose which one you start with, and as the game goes on, choose the next one to go to, means that the gameplay is very fluid, and you're able to adjust to the situation. You don't just get blown out in this game. It's very rare to just get completely blown out. Because like I said, even if somebody attacks me right now and say they hit me with 3 guys right off the bat with some crazy combo, I don't lose because I don't go to my next core until the start of my turn, which means they could have 15 guys out, 15 mortals out and attack, and it won't kill me no matter what because I have more core backups. So it's also as the player that's attacking, it helps you tempo, and you need to strategically plan out how you're going to attack and not overcommit and waste attacks or waste mortals in attacking when you can't destroy a core, or when it will destroy a core and the extra doesn't do anything because their next core is not out. Anyway, all right, so there's some of that. And then basically, because we've attacked, we've used all of our decrees, we've depleted our core to begin combat, and we've attacked. We now no longer have anything else to do. So it would be our opponent's turn. When you go to the next turn, you're basically going to reset everything by undepleting it. You're not going to draw a card like most games. You're going to gain 3 decree. Okay, so now I have 3 decree. We still have the same 4 cards in our hand. So we'll probably, a lot of times you use your decree to draw more cards. So we're going to use our first decree to draw a card. We drew another clout generator. We're going to use a decree to play a clout. So now we have 2 beta clout and 1 omega clout. And that allows us to play something like Go-Go Box, which is an item. It gives our guys fast. And when a fast guy hits, we draw a card. Or another mortal like Cheese Knocker Sneeze, a 1/3 that lets us deplete him to make our mortal or opponent deplete one of their mortals so that we can actually get through with an attack. Now you can't use deplete when they come out. You have to wait 1 whole turn before you can deplete your guys unless they have fast. Okay, so we have 1 action or decree left. We used 2. 1 was to draw, 1 was to play our beta clout generator, and we're going to use the next one to play our Go-Go Box. So Go-Go Box is 2 beta, 1 of any other color clout, and we will play this, and we'll put it down here. And so Go-Go Box basically gives one of our guys fast. Unfortunately for us, we already have fast on this guy, so that doesn't help us. But what does help us is it says at the end of combat, if any of our mortals with fast, which this guy does have fast, hits, then I get to draw a card. So we would attack again. And hopefully our opponent doesn't have any creatures. If they did, they may block and kill it, or maybe they attacked us back. And so now they're open because you cannot block my guy if your guy is depleted because he's been used. He's out fighting. So we're going to swing with this guy, and we would hit our opponent. They would destroy one of their shields because he has critical. They wouldn't absorb it. That'd be awesome. So now they're not gaining that card advantage. And then because we hit with a fast, at the end of the combat, we would draw a card. Now, us attacking cost us our decree if we were to do that. But we actually would have used the tap, or excuse me, too much of the other card game. We would deplete to begin combat, and then we would swing with this guy. And then we still have one more decree left. And it looks like when we drew another one of these beta clout generators. I guess we kind of messed up because we probably could have played this guy, but that's okay. As long as you're doing something in this game, you're fine. We would have actually probably, it would have been better to have played this guy, then played the Go-Go Box, giving him fast and attack with both. Draw 2 cards. Actually, we still only draw 1 because it says if any of our mortals hit, then we draw a card. So we would only draw a card. But we would have destroyed more of their shields and maybe even killed their core if they only had 2 shields. So again, part of the game is ordering and sequencing your turn and trying to figure out the most efficient way or the best way to sequence things to gain advantage over your opponent. So it's very deep and very strategic. The basic concept of it is very simple, though. I feel like you'd have no problem teaching anybody that could play any of the other card games out there this game, if not easier. I would akin it to probably a little bit more complex than like a Hearthstone, especially in the strategy sense. The gameplay strategy is going to be deeper than Hearthstone, in my opinion, but not quite as complex as Magic can be. Magic has, over 150 pages of core rules. We have 30 of the comprehensive, like deep rules that is everything you need to know about the game. The quick guide to learn the game is like 3 pages, and that includes an example of the board state. So it's very, very short and simple to get going. Basically everything I just showed and talked about would get you playing the game. So it's super simple in that regard. But again, what makes the game deep and fun and very rewarding is how you sequence your turns, the strategy and how you attack. Because like I said, in this, you can attack multiple times in a turn. So if they have some defenders out there, You can try to get through with just one guy and see how things play out, and then try to get through with another guy. You can also do things called partying, where this is kind of advanced gameplay, but you can party two guys together, and when you attack, they act as one creature essentially, or one mortal, and they can be blocked by just one guy. So that's a disadvantage for grouping them up. But what it does allow you to do is attack with smaller characters, smaller mortals, if they have a big guy. So let's imagine they had a big, 2/2 or 3/3. Let's use a different card color, right? So if this guy was a 3/3, and I have two 2/2s, that's not going to be very good for me. If I attack, they'll block and kill it. If I attack like this, they'll still block and kill one of my guys. Or if I party them together, now if they decide to block, they would end up taking their guy to the trash, and I would only lose one of my guys, unless they had some sort of a trap or trick that makes their guy better. And then when I hit, if they didn't block and I just hit them with these two guys, they would lose two of their shields. They would absorb those to their hand. Of course, except for this critical guy that would actually destroy one and they'd absorb one. Okay, so missing the stack tactic and speed compared to what you know anyway, but it feels like a very good game. Yes, I can't wait. Thank you, Ludo. Yeah, there's no speed mechanic like spoils. I know Ludo has played the spoils. We don't have a speed mechanic. That was generally the most complicated part of spoils for players learning the game, was trying to understand how speed worked. And I know speed for veteran players was one of the more rewarding strategic parts of the game, and is very simple to somebody who's played for a while. Trust me, when you're teaching a new player a new game, speed really caught people off guard and confused them. So we decided to go with just the two stats of power and life, or strength and toughness, or however you want to look at it. It just makes it a little bit easier when comparing stats and doing combat. There's still deep strategy in how you attack. Like I said, attacking one at a time with two separate individual combats, or grouping guys together as a single party, or just the different modes in which you can do that. The sequencing of your turn is really where strategy is going to come into play, and where better players will shine through and win. Oh, hey, Lola, my puppy dog wants to go outside. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments, or things of the gameplay, about the gameplay that they're curious about, or how things may work? There's going to be some really cool mechanics, like spoils had a flip up mechanic. So if you did take one of these cards that costs a lot because you can't use it right now, and you play it face down early on to get extra Omega to cast some of your bigger guys, and then later you want to get these back, there's mechanics that allow you to bounce this, or maybe even built into the card says reveal it if it's a face down statue, and you may deploy that card using a decree. There will be mechanics like that that'll allow you to always keep playing the game. Thank you. Ludo says, and action to act is a very cool concept. I know how you love Netrunner. Yeah, it's kind of a Netrunner concept there too. Ludo asks, so there's no more hero now, it's core now. Yeah, so very, very early on in the game, these guys were described as heroes. It didn't really play out in the functionality that we wanted, because they don't attack. These cards are strictly your way to interact with the real world or the game. Because remember, in the lore, you're an AI. You can't physically do anything because you're inside of a computer. You're inside of the networks of the universe. And so to be able to actually do something, you have to work through a core. And from a gameplay mechanic standpoint, this really is how you interact with the game. This is what allows you to do stuff. Everything that you can do in the game is described on the card here: draw a card, deploy a card, begin combat, things of that nature. So the rules of the game are very slim, because there's not rules about steps and phases, untap, upkeep, draw, main phase, all these things you have to remember. It's pretty much, you start your turn, you gain 3 decree, you can use your decree in your cards or through your core to do all the different game actions you would want to do. What's up, Harry Yang? Sorry if you missed something. Came in the last 5 minutes. Other than speed, are there any difference between Volition and spoils? So yeah, Harry, there's quite a few differences between Volition and spoils. We take a lot of elements from spoils, obviously. We all love spoils and what it has to offer from a gameplay standpoint, and I wanted to maintain some of that in this game. So the threshold system in spoils is very similar here. So Volition is very similar to spoils in that you have icons that are provided. We call it clout. Excuse me. We have assets or resources. We're calling them statues because in the lore of the game, statues are provided to the AI, essentially, or corporations provide statues that inspire the mortals of the world to do things on behalf of the corporations or the AI that's kind of in the background, and you are that entity. And so anyway, they provide basically a threshold. So this guy requires 2 beta icons or threshold, and we have 2 beta here, and you're able to play it. The face down is for, again, the colorless, or in our case, it's called Omega. So the threshold system is very similar, but what we don't have is the cost. Whereas in spoils, you have an actual cost where you deplete or attach your assets or your resources to your faction card to be able to pay the cost. We don't have a cost. Everything is played or deployed through your decrees, which is on your faction card. These are very faction-like, your core. So to deploy a card, you use one of your 3 decrees. So it doesn't matter how powerful a card is, it always just requires 1 decree. Well, some cards do have an ability called Pricey, which is a detriment. It says it requires 2 decree to cast this guy, or 1 extra decree, 1 decree through your beta core, and then 1 decree for the card being deployed itself. So it's basically a way of making it extra expensive. But generally, it doesn't matter if it's a small 1/1 guy or a big 10/10 guy, they're going to cost just 1 decree. However, what's going to prevent that from a 10/10 coming out turn 1 is that he's going to require more threshold, or in this case, clout. Ludo, I have to go. Yeah, it's nighttime in France. Yeah, let's talk. We'll talk later. Thanks for watching, Ludo, for sure. I hope you're excited about the game, and I hope you get some time to really dig deeper into it. I know you're super busy right now with your other projects. So again, like spoils, we have factions. So like I said early on, Magic has a detriment. It's not really a detriment, but it's a limitation, right? Where all the game rules are in the rules itself, things you have to remember. You start with 7 cards in your opening hand. You have 20 life. The rules of the game are untap, upkeep, draw. You draw 1 card per turn, stuff like that. Whereas these, we do still have core rules to the game, like your starting hand is 5 cards. And what's another one? The mulligan, I guess, is not on the faction cards. But everything else, deck size, I guess. Although those limitations could be added to these cards, right? So if you wanted to say, okay, your deck can be a minimum of 40 cards instead of, in our case, we're doing 50 cards. You can run 4 of a card. You can add that stuff to, as a designer, we could add that to the cores. And that would allow you to augment the game like a faction card would in spoils. So it gives a lot of versatility to design, and again, creates asymmetrical gameplay where my deck might be a little different in how it plays than your deck is, not just in the cards in the deck, but in the cores that I use. Maybe I don't start with these standard statues in play with my core, but then I get extra cards, or my abilities are discounted, or I gain an extra action or something crazy like that. But essentially, if you want to compare, the core are like, you get 3 cores. And once 1 core is destroyed, basically you destroy a core by destroying or having the opponent absorb their 3 shields or 2 shields or however many shields they have, depends on the core. Once those shields are gone, if a mortal hits the core with no shields, then that mortal is destroyed and you flip up a new mortal. Or not mortal, I'm sorry, a new core. That core is destroyed and you flip up a new core. This core, for example, says search your deck for when it enters. So at the start of your turn, if you have no active cores, you flip up the next core, you search your deck for a standard beta core, put it into the battle zone, which also ramps you up, right? So now you get more out, which means you're gonna be able to play bigger and better stuff, especially if you got blown out early with that guy. They just destroyed you, just attacked you with everything, and they had a really good opening hand. Well, now you're gonna make a little bit of a comeback. So your new core will enter play into the battle zone. You'll put a new beta clout generator into play. You will draw 2 cards, or draw a card, I'm sorry. So you get a new card into your hand, and then you would gain 2 shields in this case. Unlike the other one that gave you 3 shields, this one only gives you 2, but that's because you get an extra free card when it enters. So the first one gave you 3 shields, this one gives you 2 shields and a card. Also, this one has an extra ability, right? This one only has your basic decree ability and then a deplete ability, whereas the new one has a decree ability, a deplete ability, and an ability that requires a decree and deplete, which does some really cool things like destroy one of your statues, draw 2 cards. So if this is a good late game core, because later in the game when you have a bunch of statues, you can use a decree and deplete your core to destroy it and draw 2 cards. Now, if you deplete your core, you don't get that free deplete to combat, but that's okay. You could still pay a decree to begin combat as well. So that's pretty cool. That's what the cores do. They're similar to factions, but you get 3 of them and they can change throughout the game, and it allows for more balance and back and forth. You don't just get blown out in one turn because you have 1 faction card, and once that faction card's dead, you're dead. So in that regard, it's very similar to spoils, that you have a rules card that is influencing how you play the game from a rules standpoint. Like I said, the threshold is very similar. Combat is similar in that you can attack multiple times, but it is limited to the amount of decree that you have. So if you have 3 decree, you haven't done anything for your turn, you could theoretically attack in 3 completely separate combats. You'd attack, see what happens, finish that combat, do your next attack, use your decree, do the same thing, and do your third. But that means you're not drawing a card. It also means you're not deploying any cards. In spoils, it's there's a lot of interaction on your opponent's turn with tactics, where you can pretty much play anything on your opponent's turn at any time, so long as they pay a cost first. And that's a very elegant system, but we wanted to be even more simple to be more accessible to players that are new to card games, especially seeing how that we're a very cutting edge technology and we're pushing the limits in the technology standpoint, being a digitally owned cryptographic asset that's print on demand, and you can print it out in your house and play. That's a very new and exciting concept and very pushing of the boundaries. We didn't want to do that with our game design. We want to keep the game very simple and accessible. Again, not to say that there isn't a lot of depth, like I said, even more so I believe than Hearthstone and a lot of other games out there right now, in how you sequence your turns and play out your turns. Anyway, so you're basically able to have multiple combats in a turn, at the detriment of not being able to use those decree to draw cards or deploy additional cards. The interaction on your opponent's turn is done through traps. So unlike spoils where you have all event or all tactics, which we call events, are usable at any time, we have events which are usable only during your turn, not during combat. So when you're not doing a combat, you can use your a decree to deploy one of your events. This event says destroy a shield, so you can destroy an opponent's shield just outright. This event says for each player starting with you, you can look at the top 4 cards of that player's deck, put it back in any order, so you can kind of mess up your opponent's next couple draws. These are one-shot deals you can do on your turn, like a spoils tactic that can only be played on your turn. And then we have trap cards. Traps are unique in that the trap is something you play face down, so it's kind of telegraphed, right? However, you can bluff with cards that aren't traps. So if you're in high level play, the meta is very defined. You know that there's certain decks in the format. You know that your opponent that you're playing has certain style of gameplay, and he knows that you have very specific trap cards. You could actually bluff and say, okay, I'm going to play my trap over here, right? So I have this trap sitting here. These are our shields. I have a trap, and the trap can be revealed on the opponent's turn, so long as you actually have the clout to satisfy it, the threshold to satisfy that trap, right? So in this case, Blood for bonus requires 3 beta and 3 of anything. So we could play it face down, right? We only have 4. We could play it face down because it doesn't require anything to deploy face down as a trap, but we cannot flip it up until we actually meet the requirement. But our opponent doesn't know what this is. This could be an asset, say I've got an asset here, right? This could just be an extra asset in our hand, and we're like, we'll play this face down, and they think it's something that stops one of their guys from being played or pumps one of our guys up because this deck's known for making our guys bigger with a trap card. So he's going to think that that's what this trap is, even though it's not. It's just an extra resource that we have, or a statue that we played face down. So there is a bluffing mechanic, which is also very strategic and tactical and very fun. So traps are how you interact on your opponent's turn, and that's the only way to interact on your opponent's turn. We wanted to make sure that games didn't get convoluted and drugged down and grindy, especially with multiplayer. If you're thinking about playing the game, free for all, 4 players, everybody's attacking each other. When you are able to interact on every person's turn at every point during their turn, games can get kind of grindy. So this helps reduce that grindiness. And you can say, oh, well, he has a trap and she has a trap, and they have 3 traps. So I know what they're playing in that deck, 3 traps. They're probably going to blow me out if I go that way. So I'm going to attack this way. Or you can politic and just be like, hey guys, look at their stacking up over there with a bunch of tricks. We need to deal with them a little bit. Versus you have to worry about every card in somebody's hand if you're able to always play stuff on opponent's turns. So I hope that kind of gives you some insight into how Volition is slightly different than spoils, but carries over some of our favorite stuff from the game. When you attack, I don't know if you were here when I mentioned this, but you can group guys together in a party during a single attack. So if I decree I'm going to attack, or if I use my deplete ability to get my free attack big in combat, I can group them together and attack as one, or I can attack with them separately, both at the same time during one combat. If they're separate, they would have to use two characters to block. So they have to say, well, I'll use this guy to block this guy and this guy to block this guy, just like in Magic. What's the other card game that does it like that? I think WoW TCG did something similar, but you would choose block, right? But if I know that these guys are both small, or maybe one of them's bigger, I can group them together and I can attack like this. That way, if they do block with both or just one, my guy will kill their guy because my smaller guys will kill their bigger guy. There's also maybe benefits. Maybe you have a card that says while it's partied, he gains +1/+1 or something along those lines. So there could be benefits to partying up as well. There could also, be detriments where it says, the opponent has a trap. Here's a trap. And they flip that trap up, and that trap says, boom, destroy the attacking party. And it gets both your guys. So there is risk and reward there. Again, that's part of the strategy of the game, is knowing, do I party these guys together, or do I keep them separate for this attack? And then again, maybe you have even more guys out, right? Let's draw a card. There we go. Boom. This big guy. Maybe we have even more guys out, and we want to say, okay, well, first I'm going to use my deplete ability to begin combat, and I'm going to attack just with this guy. I want to see what happens. This guy's a big 6'5". See if they just take it. Oh, they're going to block? Cool, they blocked. Great. This guy, their blocker goes away, whatever. And now we say we want to enter combat again, and now we're going to attack with these 2 guys separately. And now I'll get one through no matter what, because they only have one blocker, and I get to have them absorb one of their shields. I hit them, and they absorb a shield. Or maybe it's the critical guy, and they destroy their shield, so it doesn't go to their hand. Because shields, when they're destroyed or when they're hit, will go to the owner's hand. So it's kind of a cool comeback mechanic where if on turn 1, I attack you for some crazy combo, which is very hard to do when you're limited to 3 actions a turn. But who knows in the future what cards come out that maybe make it enabled to be able to go, boom, I attack you with all my guys right off the bat, and I hit you with one hit. Even if it's like turn 3 or 4, and you just have a crazy one hit combo, an OTK, one hit, not one turn knockout. You do it all in one turn, you're able to kill somebody. Well, you do destroy both their shields. Those shields go to their hand, or not destroy, absorb their shields, and you may even destroy their core. But they have 2 more cores. And so no matter what you do, you can't just kill somebody in one shot. So it helps bring balance to the game, and it allows them to have a comeback mechanic when they're getting their face beat in. They're getting cards to their hand as well. So that's a very cool comeback mechanic that even Spoils didn't have. There was no comeback mechanic like that. There was a game called Imagination, which that's kind of modeled after, where the 3 faction cards, they used 3 Magi. And as a Magi died, the next Magi came into play, and it gave you energy, and you were able to search your card for a specific deck that Magi offered, a specific card that Magi offered, and put it into your hand. That way you kind of could come back. And we could do all those mechanics on our cores as well. So you can have it so when it enters play, not only do you search for a standard statue, a basic resource, you also search for a specific guy like Skullmuck, and he goes to your hand. And it's like, that's something a core you want to play late game because it gets you a cool card and it goes to your hand. So that's the gameplay. That doesn't, and again, another thing that's different is how our distribution method is, which is it's a blockchain-based, digitally owned asset that you can print on demand, print and play, and we have crafting and stuff like that. So I can go back to the crafting. So that's the gameplay, right, guys? Once the opponents, all 3 cores of the opponent have been defeated, you've won the game because they no longer are able to access the real world. You've destroyed all their cores that give them access to the real world, and you are the lone, standalone, the cheese that stands alone AI that is able to control everything now. That's the goal of the game. Okay, so if there's any questions, make sure you hit up some questions. Let's go back to the wallet for anybody that's joined us late. So this is our wallet. This wallet shows all the different assets that we have in our collection. This right here that I'm showing you is a beta precon, which is what I was just demoing with. But I have more cards in my, this is filtered to just my beta precon. I have a bunch of cards in my collection from some booster packs I opened. And you can see all the other colors, beta, epsilon. This guy's epsilon. We have some double resources that provide beta and delta. We have a host here that's been merged together. We actually created this card, and I'll show you that. We'll go through and create a card here in a minute using basically gear cards that we didn't want anymore, and a host that allows you to socket a card onto it, or imprint it or augment it, essentially. And again, this is all temporary. These probably aren't going to be, this guy's not going to be called a beta host. It's not going to have this artwork. And it's probably going to be called something else for the mechanic of gemming and hosting. But the concept is there. You can see at the bottom, this guy says he's crafted. That's because he's a unique card that we created. Okay, so let's go back and actually craft another card here. So I'll show you. You can take and find a host in your collection. And these are different hosts. So here's a Delta host. He's a 1/1 for 2 that has Distract, which means when he attacks, you can pick an opponent's mortal and make it so they can't block. This is an Omega host. He's a 1/1 for 1 of any color, but he doesn't do anything. However, he has 2 gem slots. You can see it next to his line type here, his type line. He has 2 slots, whereas this guy only has 1 slot. Whoops, didn't mean to click that. So he only has 1 slot. That means you can only put 1 gem in there. This guy has 2 slots, which means you can put 2 gems in there. And then a Theta host, this guy is a 1/1 for 2. When he's destroyed, you can make each opponent discard a card. Okay, so we can take like this Omega host here, and we can attach a gem to it. Gems are like enchant creatures or gear, like Spoils had items that are gear. These are the same thing, items that are gear. They augment your guy and make him bigger in the game. If you deploy them, you make sure you meet the cost, you pay your decree, you deploy the card, and it attaches to your guy and makes him better. Well, you can also use these outside the game to make guys permanently better, and then you include those guys in your deck. So as an example, we're gonna attach a Theta gem to this guy. So what we want to do? Let's do this one. We'll do a Gamma gem. No, we're gonna do this one, Delta gem. Gives +2/+2, so that would make our 1/1 a 3/3 now, and it's gonna increase his cost by 2 green. And it, when you socket, it reduces the cost by 1 colorless. So in this case, it's only gonna up the total cost by 2 green. If we were to use the Beta gem, it would actually up it by 2 red and 1 colorless. The Gamma gem would be 2 yellow and 1 colorless. This Omega gem, if we did that, it would just add 2 colorless to the card's requirement. So we'll just do this. We're gonna add a Delta gem. And then because this is a blockchain transaction, again, we have to type in our password and submit transaction to the blockchain. It's gonna go to the blockchain. It's gonna reach out to a node, a bunch of nodes, and say, hey, this is a valid transaction. They're gonna come back and say, yep, you can do this, merge these cards together, and it sends back our asset that has been now augmented. He is now a 2/1, 2 cost, 1 cost, 3/3 that has the ability of, if this would be destroyed, put it into the battle's owner's control as a face down statue. So when he dies, he flips face down and helps you ramp. Okay, so that's pretty cool. We can add this to our hosts because that's what these tags are for down here, so that when we look at our collection, we can find it, host. And then I'll show you what hosts we've already made. We made some hosts earlier. Here's some of the hosts we made earlier. They're all, well, this guy's a beta host, so he was inherently one of the red guys. And we added a purple gem to him. This was an Omega host that we added a blue and a yellow. This guy's an Omega host that we add a green to. Let's go ahead and add a purple to this guy, this Omega host. So we can click on him. Actually, whoops. We can do attach gem to host. We're going to choose our Omega host. Notice how this Omega host is a clean one. He has got no gem attached to him. He's just a 1-1 for 1. Whereas this Omega host has been crafted. It says crafted. And he now has that green, which no longer is in our, if we look in our thing, it's destroyed when you add it to it. But we still have a slot, so we can add another one. So we're going to choose that. We're going to choose a gem. Yep, our green gem is now gone because we destroyed it. And let's go ahead and add, let's make him Christmas. We're going to play green red. So we're going to add this beta gem. Type in our password. Submit transaction. It took it out of our inventory because it literally is submitting it to the nodes. It's going to come back and the node's going to say, yep, you added this together, and boom, we have our new asset. And we will add it to our hosts. And now we have another new host we created that has both abilities from those two gems. The new cost, which is quite pricey now, it's 2 red, 2 green, and 2 colorless to get a 4/4. So he costs 6 for a 4/4 that when he's destroyed turns into a face down resource and has momentum that says as long as all creatures in this party, all mortals in this party have momentum, it cannot be blocked by only one guy, meaning that they need to block with multiple guys to block this guy. And so he usually will attack alone, but if everybody has momentum that you have out, you can put them all in one party, and that party cannot be blocked by just one guy. They have to block it with a bunch of guys. And because he's so big, he'll probably kill those guys. He'll probably destroy them. So that makes this guy pretty good. And now his cost has been adjusted appropriately based on the gems you put in there. And you can see both of his gem slots are filled with augments or gems, whatever we're going to decide to call those. Yeah, buddy? You broke your puppy? Uh-oh. Does anybody have any questions? Is that exciting? I think it's exciting. I hope you guys find it exciting too. If anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me personally or post it in the chat right now and we can talk about it. I know the stream's gone kind of long, but I wanted to kind of dig into it deeper. I'll probably do this again, talk to some more people, show off the wallet some more, get a couple people interested. Maybe we can get some demo games going. You can sign up as a beta tester in the group, join our group, reach out to me personally if you want to, and I can get you the beta test information where we're going to very soon in the next maybe week, maybe 2 weeks, open up the wallet, the new wallet with the crafting and the actual booster packs, because we've got booster packs. Let's show those again. You can actually open booster boxes. And do I have I do have some packs, I think. Let's see if there's any packs. Nope. It says we have packs. Looks like we got a little bug there. It says we have packs, but we don't. Tagged. So, but we do have booster boxes. So look at this. We got a booster box. We can go ahead and say open box, choose a box, open the box. And the beta testers, if you sign up, or any existing beta testers in the next week or two, when we put this live for beta testing, you will be able to go in and open up booster. We'll give everybody, I'll send everybody a booster box. I have to actually send it to you, just like a real transaction. I'll send everybody some boxes, maybe some precons, and then you guys can mess with the crafting and the opening of packs and all of that fun stuff. So now we'll open our box. We're down to 3 boxes. We've got 13 assets in that box. Like I said, it's 12 packs and 1 insert card, which is like an extended art. We're going to accept that in. And then we're going to open all of our packs. So let's actually just go find those packs. And we'll open them all at once. They're there. So we have 12 packs. Zoom in on that. You can see all of the asset IDs for each pack. These are unique IDs that only I have. So these are unique packs to me. I can open up these packs now. And actually, if you guys want, you should be able to actually scan any of these barcodes. They might be too small on here, but I can show you on the live with the physical cards I printed out. And I bet you guys will be able to scan that barcode using your smartphone. If you're not watching the stream on your phone and you're sitting at a computer, you could just scan your screen and it'll give you the unique asset. And if you had a wallet, you could, I could send you that asset, or you could look up, using an interface that we'd create, look up that card that I own and see who owned it, the history of it, all that kind of cool stuff. All right, so here's the packs that we opened. And we can add those packs to our collection. We opened a lot of cards. It was like 200 and some cards. Each pack right now is coming with 5 commons, 2 uncommons, a rare, and then an insert card, which is a core, a random core, or that core could be another rare or a special art insert card, or it could even be another booster pack. So yeah, like I mentioned before, you can open a booster pack inside your booster pack, which is awesome. Maybe even a booster box if you get super lucky. How cool would it be to open your pack and your 9th card is a booster box? a whole other booster box. We can even do special packs, like one pack that contains one of every card in the set, or all the premium cards, or a pack that is all premium cards. You could do something like that. So that's some pretty cool stuff. And again, here's all the cards. If you wanted to create a deck, like we already have our beta precon tagged. So here's our beta precon. You can go to the print, change it to US letter, which is 8.5 by 11, and you can just print this out. And it'll print it out on a sheet of paper. You cut it up. Actually, I might have an example here. Oh no, maybe not. I got rid of my example. I don't know where it went. But I had an example sheet. You can print it out and you just cut it up and you sleeve it up. What's up, buddy? You want more snacks? Okay, give me 1 second. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up soon. But basically, all of our cards are just sleeved up magic cards or spoils cards in some of these cases. And you just print out the sheet and you put it in there. And they look fantastic. Like I said, maybe you can try scanning one of these. Let's zoom in. Let's zoom in on this. Look at how good this is. And I'm using a $50 8-year-old printer. So I'll leave that there. You guys probably can scan that with your smartphone and get the asset ID, which is pretty cool. So like I said, there's some really cool stuff you can do with like deck checks for organized play. Somebody prints out, you have everybody print out their deck list. It's simply got a QR code. You just scan the deck list and it tells you everything that's in their deck. And you can verify that against the cards that they actually physically have. That way you can make sure someone's not cheating or playing with cards that they don't actually own, because you want to do a sanctioned event where you get promos. Sanctioned events will record those events in the card, in the blockchain, so you can see every card that was played in every event that card was played in. So like right now, if this card was, if we had it set up, you could scan the card and see who owns this card, what events it was played in, when it was opened up. Are there any notes on the card? Is there any history? You can even add levels to the card, so it like levels up. That way, when it's in your inventory, you get a bonus to your inventory. Maybe you get free in-game currency that helps you with crafting or whatever, just by holding the card in your inventory because the card's level up. And then players can sell that card or trade it to somebody and send this, scan the barcode and send it, or the QR code and send it. And again, I printed these out with a $50 10-year-old printer, 8-year-old printer. They're just printed sheets of paper. And I think they look pretty dang good. Again, it's just paper. That's all we're playing with, guys. We're playing with cardboard and paper. That's all this is, cardboard and paper. I mean, it doesn't need to be anything special. Sleeve it up, put your sheet of paper in there. It took me 15 minutes to cut these out. Sleeve it up. Yeah, so yeah, Patrick says you can easily scan it with Scanned It on the iPhone or QR reader. Yeah, a lot of phones, you can just open up your phone app actually, or your camera app, and you can point your camera at it in your camera app, and it will open it up in a browser, in your Safari or in Google Chrome, just by pointing your scanner or your phone. Here, let's try it actually. So we're going to open this up. We're going to open up my phone camera, right? And we're just going to point it at the screen. Boom. You can see right there, it popped it up. Here's the QR code asset ID. Just by pointing it at my screen. I can point it at a card and do the same thing. Yep. And we get the same situation. And actually, you can use, so Scanned It's pretty cool because it's got all the different codes, but yeah. The main problem is trying to get it to focus, but boom, there you go. So one of the things when we build our wallet, we'll need to try to make sure that cameras are able to focus on being close to the asset. But you saw right there, just say scan it, no problem. Boom. So again, you should be able to scan it through the video. Pretty awesome. Yeah, there you go, Scott. Just copied one of them. You want to show the debug asset view from the node. Basically just showing the assets in the node. Yeah, I can show that. Let me open this up. So as a developer, you'll be able to, let me move this. Woo, that's not what I wanted to move. I want to move my face. All right, so you can see here that we actually, this is probably out of date, but you can see my inventory and you can see the asset ID here of every card that's in my inventory that I own. And it's got the asset ID, it's got the owner name, this account's name is Beta, it's got its inventory nonce, any fields, and then you can actually look up each asset as well. So you can pull up the asset type or this, and you can pull up the inventory or the information on every single asset as well. I don't remember what the URL is for some of, I think it might just be asset. I don't remember, to be honest. It's been a while since I messed with it. Whoops. I think you can do this. I don't remember. How do you do it, Scott? How do you do it, Patrick? I don't remember. Asset / the asset ID. Is that right? No. I'm spacing out right now. Or maybe it's changed since last time. either way, all the information for the accounts and the inventory that you have in your account and all of the asset fields for every part of a card field is basically available to be viewed, which means you can run this stuff into some sort of a digital client like a Magic Arena or a Hearthstone if somebody was to build that client, and you can pull those assets in from a person's actual account and actual ownership of those assets. So you as a gamer and as a player own those assets that you can physically trade, sell, whatever, store in your account and get staking rights or staking rewards, or print them out and play with them. And if somebody built a platform for a game that you liked or that you owned assets for, you could bring those assets into that digital client. So, okay. Don't need the account stuff. So basically we just go like this, asset / this, boom. Nope, it's asset ID, my bad. Asset, wait, hold on, what's going on here? Is it assets or assets? I think it's assets. Let's look here, account, assets / asset ID, bam, there we go. So this is that asset, and this is every piece of data that we have on that asset. It's got its clout strings. You can see here we've got the delta clout. It's a 0 on delta clout. Let's see, what are we looking at? Maybe not what we're looking at. This is, let's control F, name. Oh, that's a booster box. We're looking at a booster box. Not the best thing to look at. All right, let's go through here. Let's find, let's grab something different. We were looking at the asset for one of the boxes in my inventory. Whoops, assets. All right, so this has a beta clout of 2. It's a common. You can see rarity common. If it's got any slots that are usable, because it's a, it's a craftable card, it's artist, it's attack values. The clout string for what it actually displays on the top in the templates, it's 2 beta icons. If it has defense value, this apparently is not a creature or a mortal. It's got its URL to the artwork. There's also an overlay. So if you have special artwork that overlays it, like it's coming out of the frame, that would be listed here in image overlay. It shows all the different layout pieces that it's using. It's using a main template that is using the event sub template, basically, that is using the beta color scheme to make it red. It also has layout color. This is part of our crafting method so that we can define what color the card is when it crafts a new card. This is Acid Rain. Okay, so this is all for the Acid Rain card, which is right here. Whoops. Right? So all this card's data is all right here. Here's the rules text for it. There's crafting rules text. If it's a card that it's going to, when it augments onto another card, has different rules text or specific rules text versus when it's actually just a standalone card, you can put that in there. It's got the set number, everything. It's got the owner of the card. It's got the type of the card. So this card type is basically the like the true name of the card. So if you were to every 1-123-1 is this version of Acid Rain, or this acid, it is Acid Rain. It could be augmented though based on if somebody crafted or added notes, stuff like that. So essentially, that's your card ID for Acid Rain versus using the name Acid Rain. So there's a lot of cool information here. And like I said, all this data could be compiled and into a client that allows you to play the game digitally as well. So that's a pretty cool thing. Yeah, all the fields are user defined fields. Basically, anybody. So if you're building a game, you don't have to use these fields. You define every single aspect of the game. If you're developing a game to use on this platform, you can define them however you want. If you don't have half this stuff, you don't have to use it. Use whatever you want. You can define every name of every field however you choose. And then you can, in your scripting, you call those fields. In your templates, you call those fields. Again, I would like to get into this deeper at a later date with more viewers. Right now, I think we're kind of burning our time. It's 8 o'clock, so it's been a 2-hour stream. I think we're good on that. We will schedule another stream to go deeper into the tech and the development of assets on the platform. And maybe we'll do another gameplay demo discussion as well. So I want to do more live streams, try to get more people the information that they may be wanting that they don't know how to ask or what's available. And they may not even know the questions they have yet, but they're interested. So I want to get the information out there so they can get questions to us. But again, this is all user defined. So as a developer, you can create it in whatever way, define whatever fields you want, use whatever methods you want to craft and build cards, both as assets for users to use that asset or to allow users to create their own assets. Again, it doesn't have to be cards. It can be boards for board games. It could be RPG character sheets. There's tons of options here. Again, the possibilities are limitless. So again, I appreciate everybody watching. I know it's kind of long. Hopefully if you came in late, you can jump back, watch it from the beginning. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you share it with anybody who might be interested. Take care, guys.